Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for attending today's Now Pittsburgh March chapter meeting that will focus on the city's new economic development agenda. My name is Alyssa Kunzelman, and I'm president-elect of NAO Pittsburgh. On behalf of NAO Pittsburgh, want to thank our gavel sponsors for their annual support. They are recognized at your tables as well as on the screens. We want to remind you that NAOP Pittsburgh Job Board is live. This is a benefit for NAOP Pittsburgh members only and highlights entry-level roles and internships. We are coordinating these with universities. If you are interested in posting a job to our job board, please contact Jackie or Tom on our board. If you're not already a NAOP member, please use a QR code to do so, or talk to any of us, Tom, any of us, and we can help you with that. So, NAOP Pittsburgh has a lot of great programming coming up. So I'll try to get through this quickly, and I know we can all read the slide here. But on March 26th, Duquesne University it's the launch of their real estate event reception that NAOP is partnering with them on. You can register on the website via the QR code on the next slide, which we'll be showing. They are launching their CRE program that will feed talent into our pipeline. On March 31st is the quarterly chapter-wide advocacy call, for members only. You can sign up for that on our website. April 16th is our chapter breakfast with the Pittsburgh Innovation District, and we're going to focus on the intersection of tech and robotics in the commercial real estate space. May 28th, it's our 33rd annual awards banquet. General ticket sales will be open in early April. Best way to reserve your seats to talk to Tom about sponsorships. June 1st is our annual golf outing at Fox Chapel. Look for emails coming out soon. June 11th, we're having a joint event with BOMA. June 15th is our 18th annual clay shoot, where we partner with Crew on that. The QR code to register will be also in an upcoming slide. June 18th, our joint happy hour with the Master Builders Association at Phipps Conservatory. August 20th is our annual DL golf outing, and November 12th is our annual night at the fights. As mentioned, this is the QR code to register for the upcoming Duquesne University launch of the real estate reception on March 26th. This is just, again, another reminder of our annual awards banquet on May 28th, and we want to thank Columbia Gas for being, once again, our presenting sponsor. As mentioned, this is the QR code for the registration for the annual NAOP clay shoot at Highland Sporting Clays. And finally, you can support the NAOP Pittsburgh PAC via this QR code, and there's also some table tents at your table. And now I'm going to bring up Tom Frank, our Executive Director, to provide an update on our advocacy front.
Good morning, everyone. A couple of fresh faces. I think maybe Nate and David stayed out too late last night partying, so they're not here to give the updates. Really, I'll keep it short and sweet since we have a great panel today. The really big advocacy news is the Corey O'Connor administration released the findings from their first executive order on permitting. It's a three-phased approach. I encourage you all to go on the website and check that out. We have it on our LinkedIn, but you can find it on the city website. So without further ado, let's bring up Mr. Lance Chimka to start the panel. There you go, Lance. Let's give it a run up here. Perfect. And I'll let Lance take it from here. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for coming out this morning. What a great crowd. And for good reason, we got two really important folks here joining us this morning that are going to lead Pittsburgh into a new era of development with the new mayoral administration. So without further ado, I would like to call them up to the stage. First up, Mary McKinney Flaherty, who's the Deputy Director of Economic Development for the City of Pittsburgh. Mary, please join us. Thank you so much. Yeah. The mics are on, so hot mic alert. Already ready to go for you. And Steve Wray, Director of Economic Development for the City of Pittsburgh. Steve. Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having us.
So
Pleasure.
you are pretty fresh in this gig, right? How long are we in the position so far?
7 weeks,
Okay.
I think so.
So we're gonna launch immediately a ton of hard questions at you,
Go
knowing
for
that
it.
you have barely found the bathrooms already. But I did think that you guys both had some interesting backgrounds. I spent, a bunch of time in the public sector and economic development for the county and the state, and was able to see my colleagues' backgrounds. I thought you guys brought not only an interesting background, but very complementary between the two of you. So I wondered if you could just give folks here who may not be familiar with your path to this position just a snapshot into how you got here and what you've been working on previously. Mary?
Sure, absolutely. So my background has been primarily in legal and M&A. So I worked as a lawyer for almost 15 years before going back to business school, and then did M&A advisory, primarily sell-side work, some buy-side work, and exit and succession planning for business owners. Some of those were internal transactions. The vast majority were external transactions. Represented clients large and small on deals large and small, and I think what I'm bringing that's most relevant to this crowd would be a couple of things. From years in professional services, first the client service piece of things. Any human being, any business, large or small, who comes to interact with the City of Pittsburgh government, I see them as a client of the City of Pittsburgh. It is our job to earn your business, regardless of whether you have to deal with us or not, and to really deliver service and on a daily basis work to continually improve the manner in which we deliver that service to you. The second piece is the importance of both numbers and time. There is a saying very common in M&A, and I know throughout your space too, that time kills all deals. That happens for many reasons. And so I am very sensitive to, I think we are very sensitive to, the ways in which delays from government or other issues, and we'll talk a lot about the permitting reform later, can cause deals to no longer pencil out, things to fall apart, contractors or interested parties to fall off, and the importance of time in moving things forward, and that then delivering for everyone in the City of Pittsburgh. So those are the two primary things that I would think my seat I'm bringing to the role.
Amazing. Customer service is a part of government service. It's revolutionary already. Steve, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think a couple things that maybe stand out first. First, I'm a 3-time comebacker to Pittsburgh. So I've left, come back, left,
Welcome
come back.
back.
Yeah, so I'm in the midst of my 3rd comeback. But what that has meant is that I've spent my life in a lot of different roles, mostly at what I would call the intersections. I've always worked at the intersection of public and private, of government and nonprofit, even academia. Started my career in real estate with Jones Lang on an international basis, working in New York. Came back, worked in the state government for Lieutenant Governor Singal in the Casey administration. Then went to Philadelphia after we lost an election. Elections have consequences. People lose jobs. You've got to find something else to do. Went out to Philadelphia and was deputy director and executive director of the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia, which is a regional business-led economic think and do tank in Philadelphia. Had great opportunity to work across 3 states, 10 counties in the 5th largest region in the country, where we did a lot of innovative things. We'll talk about those later. Then was a partner at eConsult Solutions, an economic consulting firm, so had my private sector time in leadership there. And then was recruited to come back to Carnegie Mellon, where for the last 3 years I led the Block Center for Technology and Society, which focused on AI and the future of work. If you want to get an education, be at CMU, learning about AI over the last 3 years. So had the opportunity with that to also play a little bit in the economic development sphere on behalf of CMU. And then when the mayor came, it was time to do it. And my focus always is how do we make the public sector and the private sector work together? And there's real opportunities that way. There are places where we can lead, but there are also places where we have to get out of the way. And part of my job is trying to be that glue person in the mix of all of the different organizations. My experience in all of them means that I think I can navigate the alphabet soup of organizations here in Allegheny County and in Pittsburgh to make it work.
Amazing. See what I mean? You don't often get folks with this kind of background in these roles, so I was really excited to hear that. But what's more important than that is really understanding who you are as people. So we're going to play polarizing Pittsburgh cultural quirks lightning round. Are you ready for this? All right. So basically just one word answers on polarizing Pittsburgh cultural quirks. Now, Steve, you spent most of your time outside of Pittsburgh, even though being a boomeranger 3 times. So your perspective as an Easterner is very important here. All right.
I'm not an Easterner.
Okay.
But even with 28 years in Philadelphia.
Okay, fair enough. Mary, fries on sandwiches, delicacy or travesty?
Absolute delicacy.
Wonderful. Starting off very well. Thank you. Thank you. Steve?
With or without? Oh, no, wait.
See?
Delicacy.
Excellent. Pittsburgh left, courtesy or chaos?
Courtesy, and I have a crazy story here from when I moved to DC.
Lay it on me.
I was a freshman in college, and I was borrowing a friend's car, and I was at a light in DC, and it turned green, and I went left, and I saw lights flashing behind me, and I got pulled over for failure to yield, and it was just a Pittsburgh left.
Insane. Just you got pulled over for doing the right thing. It's awful. It's a travesty.
Pre-Philly courtesy, post-Philly travesty.
Interesting. All right. Okay. This one got a lot of shine this year. Parking chairs, particularly as it pertains to snow. Respect it, reject it.
Respected. It is time sensitive. When the snow falls, you put that effort in, you deserve to claim your space. But the snow melts, you got to give it back.
Okay, snow only.
Respected now that this is the first time I haven't had a driveway for all my cars.
Oh, yes, situational. Yes, interesting how you gain perspective. This one's a little deep cut for me because I love Klondike bars. Klondike bars, crunch or plain?
Crunch.
Crunch.
Excellent. Me too. And then finally, now that I moved over to the private sector, I do a lot of lunches. Underrated Pittsburgh restaurant or bar?
So I don't know that it's underrated, but DeLuca's is an extraordinary gem in the Strip. Their Mancini's raisin bread French toast and their coffee are just one of my favorite things in the world.
All right, excellent.
Hemlock House in Regent Square, my new neighborhood, where I've just moved. Underrated, partly because there are no TVs in a neighborhood bar.
Excellent. I love it. All right. Well, now I'm looking for 2 lunch dates if anyone is interested to get raisin French toast and not look at TVs. All right.
Get
on to
the
substantive
gingerbread.
stuff.
Get the gingerbread.
Gingerbread? Okay. On it. Okay, so let's talk about your roles a little bit. We talked about background. We understand that you're great people because you respect the parking chair. So let's talk about each administration and your role. You know, a lot of times economic development in this role is structured a little bit differently in each administration that comes through. Just with this new administration, can you give us a sense of what your primary roles and responsibilities are going to be, how that might diverge from things past, and then I have a follow-on that I guess I'll lob out here too. How does that kind of interface with other folks working on economic development, either at the city or the URA, et cetera?
Sure. So one of the things that really attracted me to this role was how the mayor was redesigning and rethinking how we do economic development in the city. What he has done, typically the economic development director in the city has had responsibility both for the building side and some of the growth and attraction side. The mayor has split that role. So in Yaron Zober, who many of you know was probably part of these meetings for a long time, is the director of redevelopment. He and Ricky Burgess and Marita Bradley are really focused on the buildings in the city. How do we create more? How do we redevelop buildings in the city? Yaron is also the chair of the URA, so they're in charge of the buildings. Mary and I on the economic development side, kind of our shorthand is we're in charge of filling the buildings, of trying to keep them filled. So we're in the growth business. How are we growing our economy here? How are we growing our population? How are we growing our base of talented young people to be able to keep companies competitive, fill those buildings that are here, and keep the buildings that are already here filled? And Mary has even a more interesting and exciting part of that role.
Oh, thanks so much, Steve. So in addition to working with Steve in support and or partnership on some of the larger scale attraction, promotion, growth efforts that we're undertaking, I also have a significant focus on small businesses, neighborhood business districts, and arts and culture as economic drivers within our region. Have been spending a lot of time in our neighborhoods, had a wonderful tour of Allentown yesterday. I know Joe is here from RE360, was part of that tour, and really working on the mayor's Main and Main initiative to ensure that we invest in our neighborhood business districts, reinforcing that our neighborhoods are what help to make Pittsburgh special, and are part of that attraction strategy. When we attract big businesses here, making sure that we have the resources, the arts and culture assets, the neighborhoods where people want to live and thrive and play and come to visit.
And as part of that, I think you're going to see us be a little bit more aggressive in terms of what we're doing. One of Mary and I's role every week is preparing and finding 10 to 15 companies that the mayor is calling every week. I mean, he's calling folks to thank them for being here. Mm-hmm. He's calling to find out what they need from city government and how we can help. But he's also calling companies that aren't here but should be here, and trying to make the case, and doing an excellent job at it, by the way.
I've noticed that from the top. I ran into the mayor-elect before the election, was with a restaurateur from Boston, and he literally grabbed her by the hand and dragged her to Mellon Square to show her the storefront spaces underneath there. So it's very palpable that this is coming top down and is kind of infused throughout the city, which is cool.
Yeah, and with that, I'll do what you always do. If you have any clients, any people, if you need anything from the city, if it would be helpful for the mayor to call you, to call someone you're working with, we'd be delighted to take that information and make sure that happens.
Just give us a little context so
Yeah.
we give him a little flavor.
Excellent. Let's stay with business attraction and expansion. And we talked about the very direct outreach. We talked about coming from the top and Corey being willing to be part of that calling card, right, which I think is really important. Can you give some insights on what we talked about, small versus large, but in today's shifting economy, any attraction targets specifically you think are really well suited for Pittsburgh in 2026, and any types of specialized real estate needs that you think would accompany that?
Yeah, a lot of my focus is going to be on the innovation sectors in general, but as we look at AI, robotics, advanced manufacturing, life sciences, and particularly the tech-based life sciences. I mean, we're building on strengths there from our universities, but you also, whenever you go after those types of companies, so we're helping the ones who are starting here grow. We want that to happen, and we want them to grow here, and we're going to make the case that they need to stay here, and there's a good reason for that. But we also want to fill in the gaps. We want to find those companies that help fill out that ecosystem. That includes professional services firms. That includes who specialize in those industries. I think there's opportunities to attract offices of professional services firms, banking, others that specialize in those areas. Don't have to go after full headquarters. You go after enough different plays that way that you have an opportunity to work that. The other part of that is international. I think introducing Pittsburgh to international businesses and bringing those here. This weekend, I'm headed to Taiwan to meet with companies in Taiwan, learn from them, but also they've made some commitments to bring investment to the United States. There's opportunities for Pittsburgh to be a part of that.
Amazing.
And I'd only add at the street level, focusing on unique concepts we can bring to Pittsburgh in restaurants, in retail, and thinking through different sorts of ownership structures, shared services, other things that might make it possible for more small businesses to succeed within neighborhoods. Definitely see you all as partners in this. If you see anything across the nation that you see working well that you'd love to see here, if you have ideas, we welcome them.
And one thing you mentioned, how does this impact real estate? And I think when we think about innovation firms, and particularly those who are starting and growing, their challenge is projecting where they're going to be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. So that 7-year or 10-year triple net lease may be really difficult for them to come up with and for them to be able to make a commitment to. So how do we think differently or create some different types of spaces that allow for growth? Because some of these firms, they're going to say, hey, I have 200 employees now. I think I might have 400 in 3 years. They might end up with 225, but they also might end up with 600. And that's an opportunity that really is something we don't want to miss because we don't have that flexibility. I'd love to talk to folks who are thinking about what that could look like and what that could mean.
Great. Yeah. And with the life sciences, you also have some building systems that require outsized, mechanical investment in the building, which is tough, especially when you're looking at really uncertain growth horizons, right? So let's talk about permitting a little bit. We heard from our chapter president here about the new. There was some news today or this week that dropped from the mayor's office. This group has been hyper focused on permitting. Maybe just talk a little bit about that. What we can expect in that sphere, in the permitting sphere, and then I do want to talk a little bit about zoning after that. So maybe stick with permitting for now, and then we can move into zoning reform as well.
Absolutely. So the mayor has been clear since he was on the campaign trail that permitting and zoning issues are not a side issue. They're not something that help a few people within the city. They are absolutely essential for Pittsburgh to build a city for the future, a city for people to want to invest in, to be able to build in, to be able to build a life in. And so this is really essential to our overall strategy for this city, for growth, and for making this a place that works for more Pittsburghers to be every family's first choice. That's what's motivating this. Let me tell you a little bit about what's happened. So on Monday, the mayor announced comprehensive permitting reform. This was done in collaboration following an executive order from day one of our administration, asking all departments within the city to come back within 60 days for a plan for how they would begin to improve, expedite, improve the efficiency, accuracy, predictability of their permitting processes. So this was in collaboration with the Department of City Planning, with DOMI, and with PLI. And what was announced on Monday was a multi-phased approach for both permitting and zoning. There are things that can happen pretty quickly as the executive branch helping to work with the departments on process. So some of this will be what you experience at the initial phase. There will be a move towards having pre-application meetings all the time with all folks involved, clearly outlining time frames, making sure that it's clear so that you don't have either conflicting times, conflicting advice. This is about establishing speed, predictability, efficiency, consistency, so that you know at the outset of a project what it is you need to do and that the city can then deliver on that. There is on our website both the press release and then linked within that, make sure you go to the link and we can make sure that this is on the website as well. Tom, it might be already. The executive summary in 7 pages lays out the multi-phased approach. Definitely want to thank our partners in City Council as well. I'm seeing Councilperson Wilson right there as well, and others who have been very helpful through this process. But on permitting, I mean, it really is about improving those phases as well. So.
That's incredible, and I think that's welcome news to a lot of folks in this room, particularly on the larger projects. But interesting, given your focus on kind of Main Street work, something that I've always thought was that arduous permitting is actually an equity issue, and that like your mom and pops that just want to sell stationery that have to PM their own projects have no idea how to navigate this. So I think it's important from the Main Street issue as well.
Absolutely. I mean, this is something that we were talking about yesterday when we were in Allentown, in Troy Hill, in Lawrenceville, in Homewood, and neighborhoods throughout the city. This is something I certainly saw as an attorney when I was representing small businesses or individuals at pro bono or an M&A. I mean, it's much harder sometimes for someone who has fewer resources to navigate the process. And by doing this, we enable more people to be able to do more things, because that is the sort of thing that's someone's livelihood. They're not just moving on to the next project or into the next city like a large business might be able to. This is absolutely something that's essential for small businesses and individuals.
Interesting. That's great. Maybe touch on zoning a bit. So there have been a lot of, the public has to weigh a lot of different conflicting priorities when it comes to zoning, growth, affordability, etc. we've seen a lot of conflicting proposals in this regard. Could you just kind of look into the crystal ball a little bit, see where we're at with zoning reform in the city, what the path forward might look like at this point? Just kind of any insight into the zoning reform?
Absolutely. So zoning also outlined in the executive summary would direct you there, and we're happy to follow up in more detail on any of those issues. So this is, again, a multi-phased approach, starting first at looking at the fact that we have a pretty outdated, cumbersome, sometimes internally inconsistent zoning code. So this is a modernization effort. It is a modernization and efficiency effort. So some of the things you will see then as far as specific changes would be looking at, are there things that should more often be as of right rather than going to the zoning board? We had, for the first 2 weeks of our administration, 2 graduate students from the Harvard Kennedy School of Public Policy who they spent their winter term digging in and working in all of our city departments and gathering tons and tons of data, having a consulting type of lens with this, and made recommendations which are part of what are going to be implemented. So for example, I'll just use a simple example. If the fence height, and I apologize that I might not know, if a fence height is limited to 6 feet and any exception above that, you need to go before the zoning board.
I think that's actually right.
But 7 feet is granted 97% of the time. Perhaps that should be written into the code. And so those are the sorts of early stage changes that will help to address small projects, absolutely, and reduce that cost but also then reduce expenses for the government, free up government resources to look at more complex issues. Then we will begin to look at infill housing, single stairwell issues, all sorts of things across the city. We invite all of your engagement. Would love to know what challenges you're encountering. The more specific you can be about the things, whether that's permitting or zoning, that you are experiencing. Would love to hear from every single person within this room where you've encountered challenges, what you think's problematic, what you're seeing that's working elsewhere. I mean, many of you are operating in multiple markets, and if something's working elsewhere, we want to make sure we're doing it here. We've done a lot of research. There's a lot of smart people. And again, throughout the city departments, there are amazing human beings working. Just sometimes the statutory framework and or the systems that have existed don't support them. Also, there will be a lot of modernization related to our websites, our electronic processes, making sure there's more integration there as well.
Well, and this is definitely a business issue, and business predictability. But I also view it as a talent attraction issue. One of the things we will market Pittsburgh for in trying to attract talented executives or others here is our affordability. Well, affordability is only goes so far if you can't add a fence, if you can't improve your deck, if you can't do the work that you need to do in your home to make it to where you want it to be whenever you move here. So this can be important not just for the business improvement, but also for the really important task of attracting the executives who make the decisions about companies coming here, who help those companies grow and help fuel our economy.
Amazing. I saw in some of the reforms about secondary stairwell and elevator issues, which could be really impactful for kind of mid-rise buildings downtown.
Absolutely.
Maybe we could just stick with downtown for a minute now that my head's going that direction. A lot of focus and energy on downtown right now. The draft has lit a sizable fire under all of us to undertake some public improvements. They're looking great. Just quick update for folks here on how that's going. And then I think, now that we're 30 days out or something, how we continue momentum moving forward in that regard.
Yeah, the draft is a great focusing moment for the city. It put deadlines on getting major public or quasi-public projects done. So Arts Landing will be done in time for the draft. Market Square will be done in time for the draft. The state's renovations on Point State Park already done for the draft. So all of those, the draft becomes that focusing moment. It also will give us a chance to demonstrate that we can do some big things in the city, and we can handle big events, we can handle big projects. Beyond that, it's going to be a chance for us to tell our story. I think you'll see the mayor in the coming weeks and even through the draft telling the story of Pittsburgh as an innovation city. We're going to try to minimize as many pictures of steel, molten steel coming out of barrels, and more about robots and neurons and technology here in the city. But it also, I think, as we think about events, one of the things I'm hoping to see is an increased focus on attracting those innovation conferences to the city. Just as we put a full court press to get the draft, what are we doing to get that top biotech conference here? What are we doing to get that top AI conference here? What are we doing to get that top robotics conference here? And how are we publicizing those as much as others? Because that's going to be important for me when I get to go to those conferences and talk to the companies that are here to visit us for 3 days. We get a chance to show it off and show off the city a little bit. Those are the opportunities. Don't underestimate, even with the draft, there will be companies here that aren't normally here. We're going to have a chance to show that off. There will be site selectors and others here that will be looking at the city. We get a chance to show it off when we're gleaming. We just have to keep it gleaming afterwards.
Awesome. Love it.
Add some of this business stuff,
Absolutely.
the downtown stuff, yeah.
So I really want to acknowledge in this and not take any credit for the work of Visit Pittsburgh and 100% the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, who's done just yeoman's work. And Kate Irvin in particular, who's been leading Project Pop-Up, a lot of the rent abatement strategy, and helping to activate. So, and I don't know whether Kate's
Shout
here.
out Kate. Yeah, I was
If
just
you're
scanning
here.
the room.
If
Shout out
not,
Kate.
has been working to fill the fillable spaces at the retail level downtown to the extent that those are not occupiable because of safety or other issues at this point, working to put art or within the space or on the outside of the space. All of that is happening in leveraging programs that already existed. They were not designed for the draft, but there was more energy, more excitement, more interest because of it. And by activating more of the retail level, the ground level of downtown in collaboration with some of the efforts that the mayor with Public Works and operations and otherwise has been doing to really clean up the street, and also shout out to PDP's clean team here, will help to have downtown looking great, would help it to stay looking great. And it's not going to be 100% there. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect by the time of the draft, but having so much going on makes it easier, and it is our job then to absolutely continue that momentum using some of the things Steve talked about, but also then through activations, through continuing and making sure that we have support for those folks who have committed themselves to downtown.
And let's root for a good Pirates season. If we
Sure,
can
why
keep the
not?
momentum past post-draft with Paul Skeens and Bubba Chandler and the others, you could see a really powerful summer.
I love this optimism. That's great. We're going to need that optimism.
Hey, I'm an old-time Pirates fan. So.
We're going to need that optimism for the next few questions here. The tax base in Pittsburgh has shed $1 billion in value since 2022 due to a number of factors. There's the soft office market. There's the county common level ratio. Assuming, let's take the things we can't control out of the mix, like Harrisburg, requiring regular assessments. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Yeah. So what are some ways we can reverse the trend of declining tax base in the city? And that's not just downtown. Downtown's certainly a huge portion of that, but writ large in the city, I'd say.
I mean, this is why the mayor has prioritized growth as a priority for this administration. We need to grow the number of companies that are interested in being here. We need to help the companies that are here grow and add jobs, add office space. Hopefully, get more of those folks to return to the office as well, so that we're using that office in a different way. But I think we also have to be aggressive in attracting new companies to come here, and I'll also throw the other piece, and this is something I did a lot of in Philadelphia, is thinking about our talent base, thinking about how we retain more of the college students that are coming here. We have 100,000 college students in the Pittsburgh region. How are we attracting more of those here? I'm planning to go up to Penn State and say, how are we going to get more Penn State students to choose Pittsburgh for their destination afterwards? We have to have the jobs, so that's why the companies are a part of that as well. But those opportunities, I think we have to be aggressive in how we recruit those folks. That means more internships from companies. so that folks get a taste of Pittsburgh while they're here for those 4 years. All of those combined, this is a long-term problem. It's not going to be solved overnight, but part of our job is to help stabilize that tax base, and then let's see where we grow.
Excellent.
And development and investment on top of everything
Yes.
Steve said within our neighborhoods. So that's in the business districts, that's in housing. That helps to have more people within the city. That helps to have active business districts. That will, I mean, working with our partners at the URA, looking at the land bank, if we're activating city-owned lands and turning those over to productive and profitable economic use for individual Pittsburghers who then can have life-sustaining wages and places to live and all of those things, I mean, that is absolutely a way in which we help to grow the tax base outside of downtown and outside of large business, which is also key.
Excellent insights. Love it. This is kind of related, but, population loss, it's been a generational problem for us. Part of your statements to the previous question address this. Digging deeper into population loss, we've kind of been saved by international immigration. 10,000 people came here from overseas between 23 and 24 to offset the losses of as many domestic-born people leaving the area. So I think, especially in the context of increased federal immigration enforcement, any thoughts on how we stem the tide of population loss, knowing that there are going to be some headwinds against further international immigration?
Over the long term, we should not give up on immigration as part of the solution. Our universities attract foreign students here. They want to stay here. Believe me, I was there for 3 years, and I saw the students, met the students. They would like to be here. I don't think we should give up on that. Yes, there are headwinds against it. I think part of that, it goes to the other thing I mentioned before, which was trying to attract international businesses here who are going to bring employees, but also are going to be attractive places for those international students to go work at and stay here. That's, an opportunity of a way of, it's not about immigration, it's about business. And let's think about what that strategy is. The talent attraction is a whole other, the talent retention is that other piece that I think is really important. If we can keep 10% more of the students who are graduating from our schools here and add that base, they want to live in the city. They want to work in the city. There's lots of opportunities that way if we're paying attention to them, if we're focused on what are they interested in. Let's find them an internship so they have a Pittsburgh business connection here whenever they're making that final decision on where they're going to go afterwards. And let's introduce them to all the great opportunities. One of the things we learned in Philadelphia around this student attraction, I will tell you, Philadelphia has increased their rate. Statistics from Campus Philly, which is a student retention organization in Philadelphia, they've grown their student retention from 30% to 50% over the last 20 years. So, and that's a region with a lot more college students than what we have. So they're doing the really hard work. Best reason for somebody staying is I had an internship and I found somebody that I knew. Second is I got engaged in a volunteer opportunity that made a difference to me and made me think twice about leaving. You have that big brother, big sister relationship. You've gotten involved in a community organization. You might think a little bit differently. So how are we all engaging those college students while they're here? They've got a 4-year test drive. Let's make it a good test drive.
Excellent points. I wonder if I'll get my sophomore back from Philly. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
We
Someone
need to,
give her
we
an
need to-
internship,
we need to
for God's
focus on
sakes.
them. We need to focus on them,
Yeah.
too, folks who leave and then come back.
Right, exactly. So I
May
feel
I
like...
just a couple of things. To
Please,
that?
please. Yes.
So Mayor O'Connor campaigned on and continues to govern on the goal of making the city of Pittsburgh every family's first choice and a government that more often gets to yes. And a lot of the things we talked about earlier on about making all of this easier to do are absolutely key to our retention. And when we say every family's first choice, that truly is every family. That's every immigrant family. That's every family who's currently living in, an underdeveloped, underinvested neighborhood within the city. That's every startup tech founder that's currently in Silicon Valley or New York and doing all the things that Steve's talking about. But just that underlying really what we are doing to help retain talent here and make people like the wonderful Terrell Galloway over there, I'm looking at you, who's moved back to Pittsburgh and has talked about some of the challenges. And we want to make sure that it's a wonderful place for him and his new wife to live and stay. And
Welcome back,
continue
Terrell.
Yeah,
Stay. I hope it's great. Awesome. And I hope my questions aren't too morose here, but we're coming to the end of the cynical.
We got
and
real
dark
issues,
part
and we
of
got
my-
to tackle them head on.
No, but I
happy
think
to
We're
go.
ready for that.
I think your direct addressing of these issues, and these are tough issues, and I think it shows that you guys are open to really kind of open the lens of government and really solve problems. It's amazing. I geek out on economic development stats. The February jobs report, not great. It could be a flash in the pan, could be not. Thinking historically, Pittsburgh has done very, very well. Actually, kind of like perversely well in recessionary economies, given, compared to the federal picture. That hasn't really been stress tested in a while. If you consider COVID to be, like I do, to be an anomaly, right? You're going back to like 2008, and you look at the state of healthcare, which shed 28 of the 92,000 jobs in the February job report. Academia probably not as strong as it was 15 years ago. So, not saying that there's any troubling signs on at the national economic level, but if there were, is there cause for optimism that the local economy still outperforms the national economy in recessionary economies?
I'm going to say I'm optimistic because of
Great.
the quality of our institutions there, but I don't think we should take it for granted. The headwinds for higher ed, the reductions in some of the federal funding sources, those are real. And that means real job losses potentially at those places. And those job losses aren't just at the university, because those university purchase services. They purchase, they hire consultants and others to do the work, to do some of the work that goes along with those grants. So that ripples throughout our economy. And whenever you are an eds and meds driven economy, that can be important. On the healthcare side, the impact on the overhead. It sounds, to those of us who say, oh, you can cut overhead. Well, the overhead is what pays for the facilities, for those labs that UPMC has, for those labs that are creating the startups that are filling our buildings in this region. So when we start thinking about advocacy, at some point I would tell Tom, you got to pay attention to that as well, because it will ripple through our economy. So I think paying attention to that, supporting those institutions in efforts, I want to treat major research labs and research projects as economic development projects for our region. Because that researcher is bringing 10 other researchers. Those are 10 jobs. They're building a lab, which creates construction jobs, creates machinery and equipment, and they're potentially creating startups. And so you then have a flywheel that starts getting created. We need to do a better job of that spin out and continuing to make that happen here. But with that, we need to be, I am optimistic because I think we have smart leadership in those institutions, but we need to pay attention.
Excellent. I do want to leave some time for folks in this room who are typically pretty opinionated and not shy to lob questions at our panel to have that opportunity. So, anybody out in the audience there have any burning questions that they want to throw out to our panel? As you see, they do not flinch from tough questions. I've been throwing my best at them, so help me out.
Surprise, surprise.
Paul's always good for one.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Student retention was mentioned for Philadelphia. Is there anything else beside that Philadelphia is doing that we could do in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, there are plenty of things. One of the things that I think Philadelphia has done very well is shift some of their attitude about how they talk about themselves. There was a legendary billboard that was actually created by kind of their equivalent of the Allegheny Conference at one point, which was out there. They were trying to do something good, but it didn't. It said, "Philadelphia isn't as bad as Philadelphians say it is." Part of what I did when we were there was create an initiative called World Class Greater Philadelphia, and I had people criticize us for doing that, but it has become a part of the lexicon of, we're trying to do world-class things in Philadelphia, and it became a really important rallying cry for a number of things. They've gotten World Cup, they've got World Cup games, they've got all of the All-Star games this year for 2026. And so kind of a focus on that, but then connecting those big things to the average citizen. So focus on workforce initiatives, workforce around hospitality, recognizing that those hospitality jobs in hotels, convention centers, restaurants are really important to the life of the city, and treating those folks as incredibly important cogs in the overall economy. And that, so I think those connections, thinking about their biotechnology industry and creating long-term workforce pipelines so that local residents can get the jobs that will emerge that, frankly, we don't even know what they are going to be in the future. And I think we need to be keeping an eye on doing that as well here.
Unpopular opinion, Philadelphia is also better than Pittsburgh says it is, too. Ooh, that didn't get... Ouch.
Good try.
Tough crowd. All right. Yeah, who else?
So Steve, you brought up the tech industry, so I'll definitely have a question here related to that and startups. So we're planning our panel for next month with the Pittsburgh Innovation District, and one thing I'm learning a lot is that a lot of the startup companies don't have established credit. They don't show a lot of revenue on the balance sheet, right. So they actually fail to qualify for loans for the construction, and a lot of times developers have to share that burden with them. So there's other states that have programs and incentives surrounding that. You said you live at the intersections a lot of times. So what are some things you think that we could do to help support startups?
That type of funding, and I think a couple of things. Right now, most of our job creation incentives at the state level are tax credits. You're not making money yet. Tax credit doesn't do you that well. Maybe you can hold it for a while, but doesn't help you in that initial year. Thinking a little bit about how that could be different. Is there a job? Can it be refundable? Can it be? Are there ways that could work differently? I mean, frankly, we just need to invest more in it. Pennsylvania was the first state to truly do tech-based economic development. The creation of the Ben Franklin Technology Partnership back in 1988 by Dick Thornburg, was the first of its kind. It's been the model for the entire nation. Yet we don't fund it. And here in Pittsburgh, that's Innovation Works, by the way. We don't fund it to the level that other states are doing. We've got to bite the bullet in some cases. Everybody complains, Ohio is outspending us, and we're losing those jobs to Ohio. Well, Ohio taxed themselves to pay for that. And that was a Republican administration that put in an increase in the sales tax to do that. Now, you can do it with bonding. There's different ways that you can do it, and with the general fund. But we need to make innovation a priority as we're looking at that, and that's a bipartisan issue.
Excellent points. There's also probably a space for a conversation around lease guarantees from a public entity, for example, to both kind of address the issue you mentioned earlier, Steve, which I thought was a great one about uncertainty around growth and how much additional space they're going to take. If there was a backstop to that, to de-risk that for both developers and the companies, that seems like a good place for the public sector to play.
Yeah, and that's a good opening for me to not forget to say, we're going to be thinking about what those policy options are ourselves and what the city can do in those cases. This isn't just a state. I mean, we need to be a part of it. You know, I saw Lauren Connolly in the back there. My
Shout out, Lauren.
partner in economic development. I think we're going to think more about how the county and the city work together to build those sort of tools, and where we can really make sure that we're competing with the best cities in the country.
We have a question.
Hi. As a follow-up to Tom's question, we hear often that there isn't enough venture funding in the city for startups. So, one, are you looking to attract more venture funds and bring them to Pittsburgh? And two, you know, as these startup companies grow, especially in technology and AI, they hit a point where they can't hire enough people, or there's not enough talent here locally, so they head to the Bay Area. So just maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure. On the venture capital, the best way to grow venture capital is to have a couple of our unicorns do really well and either go public or frankly be bought, and then those folks become venture capitalists. That's one opportunity. Second, though, is we are going to be talking to those venture capitalists. They know we're here. All right. So anybody who wants to take some of your unused office space and talk to us about what we could do with that in terms of giving those folks some office space here, or very, very low cost, so that they're here more regularly, that they feel a part of the city. I'm thinking of satellite offices, pop-up offices, those sort of activities. So, you know, example here, Google has a great facility out in Bakery Square. I saw Todd here earlier, you know, about 800 employees out there. They started with 2 at Carnegie Mellon, okay? So let's think about that as well. Getting 1 person, 2 people here from a venture firm, from an investment bank, from a private equity firm is really important. And, you know, those folks want to be close to Carnegie Mellon and Pitt and UPMC, because the ideas that are coming out of there are truly world class. That talent is in demand. And so we need to think about how we're supporting them while they're here, helping them grow, attracting those dollars, and connecting them. You know, the same way as we do tours for media of our innovation community, so that, you know, the London Times writes a story about Pittsburgh's comeback or other things. We need to do those same familiarization tours with venture capital firms. And the Allegheny Conference and others do that sort of work. They do it very well. But I think we need to even double down on that and add to it. And on the talent side, one of the challenges always is, I'm going to say, the growth talent for companies. It's that kind of, as we get more mature in some of these industries, finding folks, making sure we have folks who have helped startups grow to scale. And it's not just the founder. The founder is oftentimes you know, is really interested in founding companies and might move on to the next one quickly. But you need that CFO, that chief marketing officer, that chief technology officer, and others with experience. So how we build, you know, one of the things I'm thinking a lot about, don't have all the answers on, is how do we build that bench here of talent, or a bench that might have connections to that talent who can bring it in. And then we have to make that case to somebody, hey, you've made your career. One of the parts of this, as a 3-time comebacker, I can say this, is let's look for the comebackers. Let's look for some of those folks outside of the city who have built companies someplace else, but have parents here, have family here, have connections here. It actually works in Pittsburgh really well. They're already coming back for Steelers games. Let's keep them longer than Sunday.
Another question.
Hello. As an architect, I often look at past projects that were successful to inform my own. In terms of zoning and permitting, what cities and/or programs are you looking at to help inform decisions in our own reform?
I would just have to say that we're not core to the zoning and permitting reform efforts. We'd be delighted to connect you with the folks on our team. I mean, your own would be closer to that, but also within our office, Matt Singer, Ben Forstate, Talia O'Brien, and everyone over at PLI, City Planning, and otherwise. Sorry, I can't address that directly. Do you have anything you want to? Okay.
I'm a form-based zoning acolyte, so I will just point to Dormont locally as someone who is really, oh, we got another fan back here, who is really like leaned into form-based zoning with their very, very progressive zoning rehash. And so I would look to them. They're also interesting because they have the T-stop and active transit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people are doing it. One of the benefits of having 130 municipalities in Allegheny County is you've got case studies right here for people that have control over their own zoning that are doing really progressive things, and that's one of them. We'll do one more question, and then we will turn you guys loose.
The former mentioned Terrell Galloway from Promax Fence Systems. One of the things that Ed Stack did when he was creating House of Sport was think about what's the store that's going to put them out of business, right? So what would be your reason for leaving Pittsburgh? And then how do we mitigate that?
Parking chairs.
Lack of opportunity. I mean, if there isn't an opportunity for you to build the business you want, for your family to grow the way you want it to, for you to have the activities that you want to engage in, for you to have, as we were discussing, Terrell, those peer networks. And so those are the sorts of things that can absolutely, that's economic opportunity, that's opportunity for social connection. This is something that Sabrina Saunders-Mosby at Vibrant Pittsburgh and I have discussed in attracting and retaining diverse talent. And it's multi-phased how we address that. There's the employer piece of it and the attraction of business piece of it. There's looking at how we better distribute and get information out there about what is already happening in the city to make sure we better connect human beings who are doing great things within the city. And that is a spirit of partnership and collaboration to find more solutions. So I love the question. Thanks very much.
It's a good question. I'm going to give two different types of answers. Not exactly, and this is maybe what we hear and what we encounter. One, trying to attract a new executive to a tech company in Pittsburgh. The challenge they sometimes will face is, what's my second option in Pittsburgh? If I make the leap to move to Pittsburgh and I've sold my house in San Francisco, I've bought a house in Pittsburgh, and it doesn't work with XYZ tech company, where am I going to go once I've already made that decision? So we've got to build the depth of the companies and the depth of the opportunities and market that as hard to those folks who are coming here. Second part with that is, what will my trailing partner do? Not trailing, my accompanying partner do if I come to Pittsburgh? Oftentimes they're not in the same industry. Oftentimes most times they're not coming to the same company. You've got to find two jobs for somebody when you're trying to attract somebody talented here. So we've got to think about that and potentially build the networks, whether that's with search firms or HR departments or others, so that we know. So we have a job board like Tom's putting on the website for NAIOP that says, hey, there's an opportunity here for a marketing person because my spouse is a marketing person. And, I've got a great job, but what are they going to do? And all of that is a really important part of it. But thanks for the question. Good question.
9 o'clock on the dot. We are in a new era of government efficiency. I want to thank everyone for coming. Please give a warm NAIOP thank you to our panelists. And hopefully you guys see how talented and the depth of knowledge they have. We are in a great spot moving forward in Pittsburgh. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Mary and Steve and the Lance Chimka for a great job moderating. Certainly one of our most lively moderators, which we appreciate. So we would like to thank Councilperson Wilson for attending today. Thank you. Thank you all for attending this program. Just a reminder to look at our website for upcoming events, and also, as we discussed today, our new job board for job opportunities and internships. So safe travels.